Welcome to Looking Ahead, a series of candid conversations with tech's most influential leaders on their lives, their visions, and their bets on the future. Hosted by Ahead CTO Eric Kaplan. Today, Eric talks with Chuck Robbins, Chairman and CEO of Cisco, on topics ranging from communications as a stress reliever to the evolution of cloud and an increasingly digital world to how Cisco invests in the future. Enjoy the episode.
I am happy to welcome Chuck Robbins to our Looking Ahead show today. Chuck, thank you for taking the time and joining us. Very excited as Chairman and CEO of Cisco to have you here today. First off, just to get going, how are you doing? Obviously a lot going on in the world right now, but I just thought I'd take a quick temperature check and see what's going on in your world and how you're operating in today's environment.
Yeah, well, first of all, hello, Eric, and thank you for having me. It's going to be nice to have a chat. Look, we're doing fine, right? I think we're navigating through the situations that we're all facing, both from a business perspective as well as from a personal perspective. Family's fine, company's doing fine, and we're trying to just figure out how we can continue to take care of our employees, continue to help our customers, do what we can in our communities, and try to think about, frankly, what does this mean for our business over the long term so that we can make whatever adjustments we need to make. And that's where we're spending our time right now. But we're fine, thank you. I hope you are.
Yeah, I think we're all taking it one day at a time, both personally and with our families and kids and everything. So it's as like I tell my wife, we have it well compared to a lot of people these days. So I just appreciate what I have every day. One of the things I thought about coming into this discussion is the fact that Cisco as a company, you have 75,000 employees, obviously a huge titan in the networking space, but then all the way up through collaboration. And what could be more important than collaboration in a day where we're all working remote every day and interacting with each other over WebEx and phone calls? What have been, you operate and Cisco operates and has been operating in this mode prior to COVID, but what are some of the lessons you've learned doing it at this scale for this long that you can share with others?
Well, we learned we needed to do it at scale, that's for sure. So we had a period, obviously, in March where we spent a great deal of time and energy through weekends for several weeks, just getting the right scale, both in our cloud security platforms as well as in the WebEx platform. I think what we've learned is that, ironically, as a company, we've joked that we're probably more disconnected physically than we have ever been, but we feel closer as a community than we ever have been. And it's because we've decided that in a time where we can't be together physically, we're increasing the frequency of our communication virtually, and as an entire organization. So we're doing a company-wide video session once a week right now, and literally we're all sitting in our homes, most of the time, and it's and people are getting a kick out of seeing everybody's backgrounds, and they all have questions about what's that white book on the bookshelf behind you.
Right.
But I think that look, we've learned that frequent, authentic, clear, and honest communication can help alleviate a lot of the stress that people are feeling right now. I think being transparent with your teams, being very empathetic and understanding what they're all facing. We have employees who are at home with small children that don't understand work schedules. We have employees at home who are isolated by themselves and are feeling lonely and completely disconnected. We have employees who have elderly parents living with them where they have that stress and all sorts of variations of that. So leading through this and being a leader and a manager requires us to actually think about things we don't necessarily think about every day when we're sort of in the office environment. Maybe we should, but I think that just being empathetic and communicating a lot and really creating an environment where our employees can tell us what they need to get through this is very important.
Yeah, I had one of my children walk right into a WebEx earlier today, and I think 6 months ago, I would have felt very guilty, and today it's just kind of an accepted norm, not one that you want to happen, but when it does, I think people are, just brush it off very quickly, which is great to see. And I think we're getting to know the other side of people as well, not just the work and professional side, but more of the personal side of a lot of people.
Eric, it's funny you say that because we spent some of the early weeks of the quarantine. We decided to go to Atlanta because we have 2 granddaughters there, and they kind of moved in with us. And one night we were doing one of these weekly check-ins with all of our employees, and my 4-year-old granddaughter opened my office door. and we had been, it was early during this time, and we had been really reiterating to our employees that, and our leaders in particular, that people have small children. They don't understand what a 2 o'clock conference call is. If they need mom or they need dad, they need them, and that's just the way it is, and we're going to have to adjust our schedules to deal with it. And so I took the opportunity. I called her over, and I said, come here. And I actually pulled her into the picture, and she said hello to everybody. And I said, see, even I have young children coming in, and that's just the way it is. So it was an interesting time. And then this morning, we had an executive session with one of our large service provider customers in Europe. And the CEO was on video, and I saw him get up, and he opened his office door. And then he came back over and sat down, and his dog jumped up in his lap while we were having the meeting. So are learning a lot about each other, and I think it's become a much more informal, time for us to all communicate together.
Yeah, I agree. If we zoom out for a minute, and I think about Cisco, and then I think about what our customers are going through, I think one of the biggest headlines is digital transformation, obviously, right? Our customers are trying to figure out new business models, new products to create, factor how they go to market to be more agile. Tell me, once again, back to the broad spectrum of Cisco's portfolio and the assets that you have, from the network to security to collaboration to cloud. And I have a few kind of places I think we can drill down in, but paint the picture for me of how you and Cisco are going to help the service providers of the world be more agile, to help the manufacturers out there, the pharmaceutical companies really transform as a business. And I think if you can also really just think about that in context of the other big driver on everyone's desk, which is cloud. And not cloud as a destination, but more cloud as an operating model that clients want to embark upon or are embarking upon today.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that became very clear in the March timeframe in the U.S. and obviously earlier in Asia and other parts of the world is that those companies who had invested in modernizing their infrastructure and really updating their infrastructure and being ready, they were able to navigate their way into this probably more smoothly. Everybody did an amazing job, I have to say. I would say that some companies needed less duct tape and super glue than others.
Yeah.
But I think it was quite a testament to see what the IT professionals around the world were able to do for their organizations to actually make what we're experiencing now actually come to life. Beyond that, I think what companies are now thinking about is, if this pandemic was something that no one could have ever expected or anticipated, so now is the time for me to actually really think about the real architecture that I want to build to, comprised of both my on-premise infrastructure as well as my cloud architecture, to your point. And how do I need to actually spend the time and the cycles right now while everyone's attention is on preparedness and understanding and they know what we went through to get to where we are. So for us, what that means is that we're obviously working with customers on distributed cloud security architectures. We're spending a lot of time with customers on hardening their work from home environment and what are the long-term technology shifts that we may need to bring into the home, particularly for that high-end user, whether it's a trader in the financial services market or something else. And then our customers have been looking at evolving their sort of wide area networks between their branches, their mobile users, their private data centers, and the cloud. And I think this is going to accelerate their desire to simplify that environment and figure out how do I, instead of me navigating this complexity of trying to figure out all my traffic flows and where they're going to go, is there a simpler way for me to just get my traffic moving securely and then have it delivered to the right place? And so we're having a lot of conversations. This is a combination of cloud security, SD-WAN, and the network in general. So that's a big discussion that we're having. In the service provider space, we have obviously seen, we launched a whole new portfolio of products in December, which the timing was very good, largely targeted at the next generation backbones and access layer, driven a lot by 5G and the capacity that we expect from that. Well, we got a little preview of the capacity surge in this work from home environment, and we've seen a lot of them upgrading their infrastructure. We've seen a lot of them now actually talking about accelerating the shift to 5G. And so that's a very timely transition for us that we're very excited about. And then when you look at this technology, we think that every industry is going to transform to some extent, but particularly you think about how governments around the world have been using WebEx to continue to meet and actually continue to do business at a time where we're not, together. Healthcare is going to change forever with telehealth finally. I think we all understand what's happening in higher education, and they'll probably end up in a hybrid model where they'll have in-class students and they'll have remote students. And so all of those areas are areas of focus for us with our customers and our portfolio right now.
Yeah, my wife had her touch point with a physician today while she was on a walk, just holding her phone over video. And obviously, we're all still waiting to hear how schools will end up in the new year. But, we're already getting emails saying you could be 2 weeks on in classroom, you could be remote over video for another 2 weeks, and kind of living in a hybrid world as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think you just talked about was a lot of infrastructure, and infrastructure and the plumbing that we all have to put in place to make all this stuff work at the end of the day. But back in 2017, Cisco acquired AppDynamics, obviously. A couple weeks ago, you acquired ThousandEyes. AppDynamics has been a critical part of our business and helping not just infrastructure owners understand what's happening under the covers, but actually, I think more importantly, the business owners and the application owners make key decisions about how their most prized asset, the customer-facing applications, are performing. Talk a little bit about, and what was the impetus for acquiring ThousandEyes? How do you see those coming together? It's exciting to us because I think it's more data to make better decisions, but I'd love to hear your perspective about that recent announcement.
So if we go back to 2014, 2015, we started rewriting a lot of our operating systems to modern data model structures with APIs, as well as the ability to deliver analytics out of the infrastructure. And the view with AppDynamics was always to take their incredible analytics capability at the application layer. They had a phenomenal user interface that's very directly connected to the business issues that our customers are trying to solve. And we felt like we could feed them more insights out of the infrastructure to help them just have more visibility to what's going on across the whole IT infrastructure. As we've seen evolve, obviously, the application development models are shifting significantly. Back when I used to write applications, they were all tightly integrated with tightly integrated IBM components.
Sure.
And now you have this new, DevOps and then cloud native app development where you're calling on microservices and functions that sit in different areas, different cloud providers. And so it's going to be increasingly important for us to be able to have analytics tell us what's happening with our applications and our performance. And ThousandEyes was just a great example. They've done an amazing job of really, deploying sensors and gathering information out of public clouds, out of telcos, out of private enterprises. And we think it's another opportunity for us to help our customers just gain more insights and really understand how that works. And I think there's also the opportunity for partnerships if we can sort of feed this platform. And then there's other analytics that can come in from other companies and other organizations that actually have visibility. I think that's what we're going to need in this new world that's massively distributed and sub-elements of applications running everywhere. We're going to have it. So that's what's driving it, and we think that Thousand Eyes is going to be a great addition.
Yeah, you think about what's happening on the network side. You mentioned 5G, the edge, the cloud providers, the data center. There's no shortage of places to host and run your workloads.
Right.
And I think it's becoming increasingly more complicated to kind of zoom out and make sense of what's happening. And I think more sophisticated the environment, the harder that is going to be to piece together. And I think platforms like App Dynamics and Thousand Eyes, I think, can really help clients through that point in time problem. You spend a ton of money on R&D as a company. Obviously, you talked about product releases at the end of the year. You're also making investments through acquisitions as well, like we just talked about. When you look at the portfolio at hand, what are you most excited about in the Cisco? Not to play favorites or pick your favorite child here in terms of business units, but you guys have, obviously have a long history of continuing to invest in products and new spaces over long periods of time. Just kind of interested in your thoughts about where some of that investment that's occurring today excites you most.
Yeah, you nailed it though. If you talk about one of the business units, you better talk about all of them, because if they list them, I don't love them. But I think there's a few areas that I think about. Number one, in our mass scale infrastructure group, which are really building out next generation technology for web scale, for service providers, for public sector, optical backbones, etc. The 5 years of investments that we've made to actually bring those products to market in December, that's got a long life ahead of it, and I think they will be the backbones for the next generation, web scale providers as well as the carriers and 5G, et cetera. So that's exciting. I think the combination of the network automation, SD-WAN, and cloud security to give our customers this seamless capability to have their traffic flow in and out of clouds and SaaS providers, private clouds, et cetera, I think is going to be incredibly powerful. I think driving significant cloud automation across the entire networking portfolio over the next several years is going to continue to be important. There's some emerging technologies in areas like application networking. What we've done in the network is we've made it programmable, and a lot of the use cases and the early apps that we've seen there are really about operations of the infrastructure. I think we're going to enter an era where the app developer is going to have the ability to actually influence and provision whatever underlying infrastructure they need, and abstracting some of the complexity of how networking works and exposing that at a service layer for the applications in sort of an application networking model is something that we're beginning to work on now. I think multi-factor continuous authentication is something that's an area that our teams are working on, where you authenticate once.
Right.
In many environments, you want to have this continuous authentication based on things that you know about the individual. So that's interesting work that's going on. I think looking at security at the workload level is also something else that we can add value to. In the collaboration space, I think continuing to evolve these platforms to be a little more feature rich for specific industry use cases is something else that our teams are going to be focused on. And so there's on and on and on and on and on of things that we can be working on, and it's exciting.
Yeah, no shortage of things coming down the pipe, it sounds like. In the last few minutes, I think we'd be remiss not to spend a couple minutes just talking about what's going on in the world. And, I think Cisco's always given back to the community, and I think you have as well personally. And what do you think, what are Cisco employees telling you? How is Cisco as a company reacting to what's been happening out in the world lately? And just love to hear, how the events of the last week or two have really changed some of the thinking that you and your executive team are thinking about from a community diversity inclusion perspective?
Yeah. So first of all, I think the pandemic, as well as the events that have happened in the last few weeks, I think have amplified whatever culture you had going into the sort of crisis that we found ourselves in. If you have a great culture, I think it's amplified and it's helped you navigate your way through. Your employees, are feeling okay, stressed but okay. If you had a poor culture, I think that your employees probably they probably reflect that. I think these crises have a way of amplifying it. I think we had a really strong culture. We have a group of employees that care deeply about their communities, and we really have unleashed that over the last few years and really encouraged it and highlighted it, and we've done it corporately. So then you fast forward, the COVID response, one of our three pillars were employees, customers, communities. And the communities, we actually put hundreds of millions of dollars in all sorts of aspects that we could go through, but I won't bore you with all of it right now. But everything from helping create funds that are, assisting those individuals who are the most vulnerable, who are living paycheck to paycheck or can't afford to pay rent or buy groceries, or the people in the homeless camps that are most at risk from this virus. So all the way up to trying to look at research opportunities. We've opened our daycare centers for children of first responders. So we've had a wide range of response. And then you fast forward to the issues that we've seen relative to the racism and inequality that exist. And, we started with a $5 million pool that we're going to contribute to organizations that are actually fighting racism, inequality, and injustice in our system. I think that it has given us the opportunity to have a very honest, open conversation with our employees about what's going on. Ironically, back at the end of 2019 calendar year, we began a series of discussions with a subgroup of our black employees who were sharing with us what it's like to work at Cisco. How do you feel working here? What do you think is good? What do you think we need to do differently? And it actually turned into an exercise in January where we spent about 5 hours with 18 of our black employees, and they literally spent 2.5 hours talking about that very thing. What's it like to work at Cisco? And my entire executive team sat and listened. And then we all actually asked questions at the end, and we gave our thoughts back and how it had impacted us. And I think every one of us, to a person, actually had tears in our eyes as we did it. And then we kicked off a 100-day sprint to actually try to improve on areas that we needed to improve on, to accelerate areas that they liked but we weren't doing enough of. So the good news is that was all underway. When this all happened a week ago Monday, on Monday morning, I sent out a note to the entire company on the first weekend of the protests. And on Monday morning, we got on a special call with the entire company, and I had Darren Walker, the president of the Ford Foundation. I had Brian Stevenson, who's the head of Equal Justice Initiative, who wrote the book Just Mercy, which just turned into a movie over the past holidays. And they came on, and we had this open discussion about what this means to both what do we need to be doing differently inside the company, what can we do to help outside the company, and what does our country and the world need to do, and what are the things that we need to begin working on. So I think it's kicked off a huge piece of work that it won't stop. I think in the past we've gotten irritated and angry and excited in the moment, and then it's faded. I don't think this was going to fade. I think this is going to really impact real change in the country and probably in the world. And frankly, I'm excited about it, and I hope I can be a part of it. And there's a lot that we need to do differently, but I think it's going to take all of us coming together to actually impact the change that we need.
Yeah, I think our experience internally, and we have similar groups that we've created to facilitate some of these conversations, is getting educated and listening is step number one.
Big time.
And I think the more that can occur, the better we'll all be, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, I read a book about 9 months ago ironically called White Fragility. And it's effectively about why white people struggle so much to talk about race and racism. And in many cases, we don't know what to say. And so I actually opened our call last Monday morning apologizing in advance if we said something that was wrong, because know that everything we say is coming from our heart. And it sort of just said, look, we're trying to have a constructive conversation, so let's all learn together, to your point. And it was powerful. It was very powerful.
Well, I think we're up on time. I greatly appreciate you sharing a lot of the insight you did today about Cisco, about what you're doing in the community, lessons from COVID, and also appreciate the partnership we have with Cisco. And thank you for the time, Chuck.
Thank you, Eric. I enjoyed it, and take care of yourself, be safe, and I hope to really see you soon.
Yeah.
All right? Take care.
Thanks for listening to Looking Ahead, featuring Eric Kaplan. Looking Ahead is produced by Ahead, experts in delivering enterprise cloud infrastructure, intelligent operations, and modern applications. We build platforms for digital business. Learn more at thinkahead.com.